We start with quarterback decisions around the National Football League. We'll get to the Steelers in a moment, but breaking news in the last few minutes, live right here on the early line. In Foxborough, Jerod Mayo informed his team yesterday and made it public today that the veteran, Jacoby Brissett, has been named the starter for the Pats week number 1 in Cincinnati. A guy that entering training camp, rookie head coach Jerod Mayo said was the most pro-ready quarterback we have on the roster, but then followed that up after the Patriots preseason finale on Sunday night, saying Drake Maye has outplayed Jacoby Brissett so far throughout camp and preseason contest, but they go with the veteran presence, which we think is the right decision, despite how this situation was handled up in New England. The Patriots named Jacoby Brissett their starting quarterback.
And I'm going to double down here on what Ben just said. The right decision was made for Jacoby Brissett to start, even though he's not the better quarterback. Don't kill your young quarterback trying to get into bad habits by having a horrendous football team. Let him play later in the season when all the pressure is away, and it looks like you're just trying to get on to next year. Having said that, tell me you don't know how to be a head coach without telling me you don't know how to be a head coach. The reason I bring that up is, are we playing high school games? You come out yesterday and make it basically a press release. I know who my starter is going to be. I'm just not going to tell anybody till tomorrow when I meet with. Stop the madness, man. Just I understand that you've been elevated to head coach. You were handpicked by the owner and all that. But this is just amateur stuff here by a head coach. Command the room. When you make your decision, pick the phone up. Call both of those quarterbacks, then tell your team. I'm pretty sure like every company has like a Slack chat or an email chain or a text chain that says, from the coach, moving forward, here is our quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Let's get this season started. Instead, by telling the press, I know, but nobody else knows, I'm going to sit it out 24 hours, then tell my team. Madness here in New England. Did they make the wrong pick as a head coach? Look, that's going to play out on the field. But I don't like a single thing that has came out of New England over the past 6 to 8 months here, including naming Jerod Mayo the head coach at this point.
Yeah, so I believe in Jerod Mayo, but he does not necessarily have it figured out in how to deal with media attention on the Patriots right now. Needs to learn from the guy that was there before, who he both played and coached under, Bill Belichick, just a little bit. You have to have a clear line of direction, at least in what you are telling the public and then what you are saying inside the locker room. Jacoby Brissett, a veteran in the National Football League, has been around for 8 seasons. This is his 5th team in the last 8 seasons. It is technically just his 5th team overall, as he started his career in New England back in 2016 as well. He is that veteran. He knows the lay of the land, I guess, in Foxborough. But more than anything, this was the right call, DRS, and we'll continue to dive into it in just a little bit, because the Patriots have the lowest win total in the National Football League this year at only 4.5. As you heard really well stated from George Pilecki of Nesson earlier this week, everything else on the roster, skill positions, wide receivers, the offensive line, first and foremost, is a disaster. You do not need to thrust Drake Maye into that spot to have the finger pointed at him and the blame cast on him from the very start, when really it's not his responsibility or fault. So you send out Jacoby Brissett. Is he a sacrificial lamb? I don't think he would use those words, but a little bit so. And the Pats have the second most difficult schedule in the National Football League. I'm not entirely sure when we see Drake Maye, but I don't expect it to probably happen until week 7, week 8, maybe even week 9. I think the Patriots bye is really late this year, week 13 or 14.
Yeah, and I know even back in the day, they don't do this so much anymore, Ben, but you can certainly have packages for Drake Maye throughout the season to say, all right, when we're in the certain set, second quarter, first series is yours. I know it sounds really college and high schoolish, but at the same time, there is no perfect time, as we said, to break in Drake Maye. Unless we're all reading the New England Patriots wrong and they're going to start the season 5-1 with that schedule, we're right about this. Yeah. Let Jacoby Brissett take his lumps, ease Drake Maye into it. There's no reason to rush him, and that's really against the grain in today's NFL. You draft a quarterback high up in the first round, he is expected to start day number 1, but this team is so bad that you're saying to yourself, we don't want to ruin our young quarterback because our team is so. What does that say for the owner? What does that say for the general manager? What does that say for the head coach? That's embarrassing.
The Patriots, a 9.5-point underdog week number 1 on the road against the Bengals. Again, by far the largest spread of the opening weekend of the NFL season. Then at home versus Seattle, a visit to the Jets, a visit to the Niners. That's the first month. Home against Miami, home against Houston, London game against Jacksonville, home to end out October against the New York Jets. The first game that New England might be a field goal favorite or less probably comes week number 9 in Nashville against the Titans. Could that be the first time we truly see Drake Maye take the mantle for the Patriots and get his first career start? That's the quarterback situation at this moment in Foxborough. Now we go to Pittsburgh, where it also followed what we expected, but the road to get here might have been a little bit shaky and bumpy. The Steelers yesterday officially naming Russell Wilson their week 1 starting quarterback. He wins the job in the Steel City over Justin Fields.
I'm not saying this either is the wrong decision, Ben, by any means. Like, you basically did bring Russell Wilson in to be your starting quarterback, understandably, or you wouldn't have brought him in at all. You also brought in Justin Fields as a chance to get a look-see at a young quarterback that could actually be your franchise guy. But I love when these releases come out, because I ripped Jerod Mayo for the way he's handling the quarterback situation, not for the starter himself, but the way he brought the starter up and said, I'm going to wait 24, 48 hours, whatever it might be. But now I look at Mike Tomlin. I don't have anything against Mike Tomlin. He told you day number 1, Justin Fields never had a chance to start. Didn't matter what Justin Fields did or any situation. And Russ missed a good chunk of training camp, and yet was still going into scrimmages where he would be the starter, hobble out, hand the football off, and come back out as the starter so Justin Fields could go back in. This isn't surprise by any means. And again, we're not saying this is the wrong decision, but Mike Tomlin told you day number 1, Justin Fields will not be our starter in the first game of the season.
Again, there were odds associated with the starting quarterback job in both New England. Jacoby Brissett was a hefty favorite, and Russell Wilson greater than a $5 favorite entering the preseason finale for the Steelers last week in Detroit, where Russ and Justin Fields both played in week number 3, leading us to believe maybe the quarterback competition was still open to end out preseason and training camp, although it's really been Russell Wilson all along. We'll look at what this means for the Steelers in 2024. It's year 18 under Mike Tomlin. More of the same? Find out next. Russell Wilson has been named the starter in Pittsburgh. So now what does 2024 have in store for the Steelers? Year number 18 under Mike Tomlin. We have said it numerous times, and I'm sure you've heard it elsewhere, that in all 17 years, the Steelers have never had a losing record under Tomlin. They've never won less than 8 games in any individual season, whether it was 16 or now 17 games. A playoff team a season ago, and a team that has been consistently successful, DRS, despite an offense that has lagged behind the defensive side of the football, even with Big Ben Roethlisberger under center in the final few years of his NFL career. 8.5, the win total for Pittsburgh this year. The under has the hefty juice. Plus 186 is the number for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make the postseason, as they did a season ago. You saw the schedule on your screen, and it is considered the most difficult schedule in the National Football League. So Russell Wilson is the starter in the Steel City. What is your outlook for the Steelers this year?
It's not great. And the reason I say that is if you took the Steelers out of that division, Ben, and put them again in a different division, you might be able to tangle and try to win 9 to 10 games, maybe even get into the playoffs by winning the division. That's not going to happen. The Baltimore Ravens are better. If you get Jamar Chase under contract, the Cincinnati Bengals are better as well. And we'll see what happens with the Cleveland Browns. We know they have a lot of talent, but maybe they can't put it together with the running back injured to start the season. And quite frankly, the quarterback with a lot of question marks of a dead arm in camp. That's never a good look. But let's focus on the Pittsburgh Steelers here. What did I love about Russell Wilson through the first part of his career, Ben? It didn't matter who his offensive line was. And the reason I say that is most of the time, if you can't step up in the pocket and deliver a pass, you can't be a successful quarterback unless you're 6'5", right? Which we know Russell Wilson is not. He was unbelievable in Seattle because he could extend those plays and get the ball out to his wide receivers. You're still asking him to be that second, third, fourth, fifth year Russell Wilson now in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And I don't think that's the case. The reason I bring that up is, let's just say Russell Wilson was in Philadelphia playing behind a solid offensive line, or Indianapolis, right? Hey, you know what? He's got more time in the pocket to make things happen. You look at that Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, Ben, it's not very good. And it's not a young Russell Wilson. And you saw that already in the preseason. When that pocket breaks down, he's not as fast as he was in the past, taking sacks here. So that ball might come out even quicker and the plays can't develop, which was his charm in Seattle, where he could take the extra 2 seconds to get that wide receiver open. That's what I'm worried about. So when you look at the Steelers, does Justin Fields actually fit this offense better? Not because he's a better passer per se, but he can get out of the way and be mobile and say, you know what, if my offensive line isn't good, I can escape and make guys miss to extend plays and run the football myself. That's my worry for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have decent skill position players. They have a solid defense. Mike Tomlin is known for not losing seasons, right? And that's where we're going to hang our hat on. But the frank fact is, that's a tough division. And my outlook is, I don't think the Steelers make the playoffs.
Very difficult division, a very difficult slate for the Steelers. Part of the hope offensively in the Steel City is Arthur Smith is the new OC. Say what you want about him as a head coach for the Falcons the last 3 years, a 7-10 record in all 3 seasons at the helm in the ATL, but considered a bright offensive mind around the National Football League. Matt Canada, the former offensive coordinator, dispatched last year in the regular season, so now you have a new OC and an experienced quarterback in Russell Wilson. It was a disastrous 2-year tenure in Denver based on what the expectation was in the Mile High City. But last year, Russ was pretty good. 3,070 yards and 15 starts that he made, 26 touchdowns to only 8 INTs. Not necessarily prolific. He only threw for more than 250 yards 3 times in those 15 games, more than 300 twice in the first 3 games of the year when Denver was a disaster. But the big difference is just what is his ceiling and peak at this stage of his career. About to enter year number 13 in the National Football League, a decade in Seattle as the Seahawks quarterback. 9 Pro Bowl seasons in those 10 years. Of course, not a Pro Bowler either of the past 2 seasons for the Broncos. We will have plenty more around the National Football League in just a moment, and we'll stay in the division as well in the AFC North. It is part of the reason that Pittsburgh has the most difficult schedule in the National Football League. The team with the easiest schedule of the 4 teams that hail from the AFC North is the Cincinnati Bengals. And we'll talk about the Bengals' outlook that starts week number 1 next Sunday as a 9.5-point favorite against New England. Will Jamar Chase be out there for the Bengals? Donnie, give us a quick look and reaction. What do you think?
No.
Oh, we'll find out why up next. The Jamar Chase situation in Cincinnati. It has by far been Donnie Rightside favorite topic of this National Football League offseason, into training camp, into the preseason weeks, and now just over a week out from the regular season beginning in Cincinnati. Of course, we are 1 week away from the season opener of the 2024 NFL campaign in Arrowhead, a place the Chiefs have hosted the Bengals in the AFC title game 2 of the previous 3 seasons. Could the Bengals get back there? That, of course, is now the expectation if Joe Burrow is fully healthy in Cincinnati. But will he have his top target, an LSU teammate in Jamar Chase? Earlier this week, Bengals head coach Zach Taylor dealing with a fluid situation in Jamar Chase's status on the practice field throughout camp and now as they get ready for week number 1. Said that Jamar Chase would be out there all week long at practice, no big deal. And then Taylor yesterday, as Chase showed up late to practice and only in street clothes, rocking the sunglasses, said candidly afterward, hey, maybe I put my foot in my mouth a little bit here. This is a day-to-day situation. So what does today hold? What does tomorrow hold? And most importantly, Donnie, what does Sunday, September 8th hold for Jamar Chase in the Bengals in their season opener against New England?
This is a big problem for the Bengals because, again, if anybody has played a sport before, you don't just want to get parachuted in a couple days before the game actually starts. And like, okay, I'm here. I know the playbook. We know how that works out. You need those reps. You need those contested catches. You need to be around the boys. You got to be all in those team meetings for a good preparation process to have a great season. Now, let's remove that from the equation. What have we known all the way through? If there was a precedent across the NFL that no matter what happens, the owners stick together and you are not going to get a new contract until you're at least in your final year of playing with that guaranteed money, I would understand the situation. But Mike Brown and that ownership group are so far removed about the reality of the NFL. And you even saw yesterday, say what you want, don't understand it here. You know, let's just say the private equity money coming in, all the owners like, yeah, we love that. Mike Brown's like, no, I don't love that. The only dissenting vote here, which lets you know a little bit about that organization and how in tune with the rest of the NFL they actually are. Yeah. If you remember a couple years ago when the NFL was in those strike process, it's always the smaller market teams like Mike Brown who always get yelled at from the other teams. And if I'm just setting the stage here to try to prove my point. There was a time ago where the stadium itself was named after his father, and he thought that was important. But that was sort of holding up the process on him saying we don't have revenue streams like, let's just say, the Dallas Cowboys do. And I remember Jerry Jones at one of those owners' meeting going, you give me the rights to your stadium, I will sell it and make you $30 million a year. You're not being honest with what your revenue streams are actually here. So now we're taking a look at setting the stage where the wide receiver wants his money. Every single player around him, outside of right now Brandon Ayuk, who, by the way, is going to make like 3 or 4 times as much as Jamar Chase if they both play this season under the same contracts. That's not fair, and it doesn't make sense. If you are telling yourself that Jamar Chase is one of the best wideouts in football, and we're going to be a better team because he's here, why is he not signed yet? It doesn't make any sense. And you can extend that out 2 years. Then the extension kicks in. You can have Chase not holding out again for at least another 5 years and playing under a price point now that's going to be way cheaper, Ben, than what that price point is going to be next year, and get a happy, dedicated wide receiver. So let's just play devil's advocate quickly. Let's just say he doesn't get signed. You expect the season of Jamar Chase is going to give him every single thing he can to get in that lineup. And the reason I bring this up is, and I'm not blaming, Lamar Jackson at this point, but do you remember Lamar Jackson? Hey, I got a little bit of a knee injury. That guy sat out like 7 or 8 weeks because why? He wasn't invested with the franchise and wasn't sure the franchise loved him back. Pay the guy. He will be 100% all in week number 1, but instead we're going to play this charade from Mike Brown and that organization. Embarrassing, Cincinnati.
And maybe since he can afford Jamar Chase not being there week 1, again, a 9.5-point home favorite against the Patriots. It is the largest spread of week 1. We say that more tongue-in-cheek. You want your guys out there from the very start of the season. I am optimistic about Cincinnati with the return of a fully healthy Joe Burrow, who really had an entire training camp and preseason not dealing with a lingering injury for the first time in his NFL career. But again, what makes zero fiscal sense, if you are Mike Brown and you are a little bit on the cheaper side, shall we say, then look at the financial numbers. And do not tell us at the very end of the offseason with your team reporting for training camp that contract conversations happened during the offseason, so now the time is done, like you just fast forward through the previous 4 or 5 months since the end of February. And it goes without saying. One of the reasons, Donnie, that Jalen Waddle, who was also a first-round pick alongside Chase in 2021, was paid this offseason with a large contract extension that has him as the highest-paid wide receiver, not among the 5 guys in the $30 million club. And you might be saying Jalen Waddle's not quite that level of a wide receiver, although very talented in South Florida, is because you average out what seems like a lucrative deal over the final 2 years of his rookie contract and make it more franchise-friendly. That's what I do not understand, why Cincinnati has played this game with Jamar Chase. You could have paid him $35 million, which is a lot. It would match Justin Jefferson for the highest ever contract, the richest ever contract of a non-quarterback in NFL history, but had the words, he matches Justin Jefferson as the richest wide receiver ever. And not next offseason saying, well, now we got to reset the market once again. None of it makes sense. I'm optimistic about the Bengals. I don't feel good about this situation with their best offensive player outside the quarterback room. Other notable additions and maneuvers yesterday. Dalvin Cook, a notable signing based on name and pedigree. Not necessarily what he's going to add this year in Dallas, but the Cowboys do sign him. The Chiefs making a couple of moves, adding Samaj P. Ryan and snatching up Bailey Zappi off waiver wires. I saw a great tweet yesterday that Andy Reid's going to put Bailey Zappi in there to start week number 18 for KC and then trade him for a fourth-round pick that very next offseason. The 49ers signed Terrace Marshall Jr., a wide receiver that played with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase at LSU, a second-round draft pick now a few years ago. Allen Robinson makes his way to Detroit, and this was an interesting situation yesterday. Lewis Cine, former first-round pick, a safety out of Georgia for Minnesota. He was released by the Vikings. He was on waiver wires. He cleared. It seemed as though he was going to sign with the New York Jets. Psych, he's not going to Florham Park. He's going up to Orchard Park in Western New York. He's now signing with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, it used to be a little bit more exciting, this cut-down day. But as you see, like the notable signings here, nobody really is going to have an impact whatsoever on the outcome of those teams here. You might bolster some of the depth, but it used to be some of the bigger names got released, and oh my goodness, where are they actually going to go? And by the way, just a quick closing point there on Jamar Chase. I always hear this
please.
too. Well, if you're an organization, Ben, you can't set the precedent for guys having a couple years left on their contract because everybody will do it. Do you not understand how this world works? Go back to the 1990s, Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. He told you flat out, Emmitt Smith sleeps in a meeting that's very important. He gently wakes him up and gives him a cup of coffee. The third string running back sleeps during that same meeting. He gets cut immediately and shown the door. Jamar Chase is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Yeah. If he wants more money, you pay him more money. Your third string tight end is not going to hold out with 2 years left on his rookie contract because he knows he can't do it, and he's not as a significant part of the team as Jamar Chase would be. Don't give me the precedent nonsense. If you have a great player, pay him as soon as you can, save the money, keep him happy. You'll be a better football team because of it, not penny pinching like the Brown family is doing now. They have a trio of wide receivers along with that quarterback that could be sensational, Ben, over the next 5 years. T. Higgins will be gone next year at this apparent rate. Jamar Chase will be gone as well. Congratulations, Cincinnati. You saved money on your payroll.
Greatness deserves a precedent being set. And that is Jamar Chase. Penei Sewell, remember it was the conversation in the draft, would the Bengals draft a big O-lineman out of Oregon to protect Joe Burrow or reunite him with his former LSU teammate? And with all the offensive line woes, they drafted Jamar Chase in front of Sewell, who, oh, by the way, was given a large contract extension to make him the highest paid O-lineman in the NFL before Christian Darrisaw got that money from Minnesota. But again, pay your guys when the time is right.